I'm pushing up. Rotate.
No, they're rotating back. They're rotating back. They're
gonna go. Just rotate, guys. Just rotate. Give it up. Just give it up.
Right.
Nice. Rotate.
Greetings and welcome to episode number 18 of The Rotation with Z-Hack. So good to be back and talk some Call of Duty League with you guys. Make sure you remember to hit me up on Twitter at ZHack16. Give me any questions, comments, topics, anything you want to hear on the show, what I should talk about. My line is always open for you guys. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share on YouTube at Zach Warhack, and let's get this thing underway. You guys ready to rock and roll? I know, over here, my main man Murph, he's taking a little nap right now, but he'll probably join the conversation eventually today. But without further ado, let's get it started with some First Blood. And I want to talk about an observation that I had with the Call of Duty League this past week at the Florida Mutineers home series. And I think that right now, we're at the stage in the year where everybody's learned the game. And in my opinion, who's good, who's bad, all that stuff, it comes down to a couple of things. The skill gap, teamwork, and certain guys stepping up, in my opinion. You might think, yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty much everything. But I want to give an example of what I'm talking about, because there are teams who are at a certain point where they're kind of stale, and it's like, yeah, we're a 4-5, 5-6 team, but maybe none of us think they're ever going to compete at the highest level and be able to beat FaZe, Ultra, NYSL. But when you get to that top tier of the Call of Duty League, when you're the best of the best, when you are Toronto, FaZe, and NYSL, there's so many little things that happen series to series, and when you find yourself in the grand finals of a major, these things are magnified, and they make the difference between winning and losing a series. So when I talk about certain guys stepping up, my example of this is Mac from this past week, because you have the superstars on the team. I feel like Hydra, everyone knows, is going to pop off on that team, as he's the young gun. He came in, we questioned him at first, but now he is just stellar. But other than that, I think a different guy stepping up each week is huge, and having it be somebody different and everyone collectively working as a cohesive unit, that makes the difference. That gives NYSL the opportunity to beat a team like FaZe or Ultra and win a major. Because the skill gap from certain teams, it's just present. In my opinion, there's some rosters where the talent is just better than others. And I'm using NYSL as an example because I feel like, yeah, of course they have talented players and some of the best in the league. But on top of that, when you really break down their roster and the names, it's nothing that's going to jump out to you on paper like, holy cow, these guys are a super team all-star deal. Like when you look at FaZe, Simp, Abizi, Arcides, and Celium, you're like, oh my God. When you look at NYSL on paper, it's like Clayster, the GOAT, in my opinion. The veteran, he has shown that he brings teams together. He's not always going to perform the best, but he'll make damn sure that everybody else around him does, and they're going to know what they're doing. So you got him as the leader. Then you see Mac. He's a good player. He was a talent back in Modern Warfare, and he's been good in this game so far. Then Hydra, the young up-and-coming superstar. He's the simp of this year, basically, in my opinion, is how I view Hydra. And then Asim. He's just the guy who's the nitty-gritty. He'll do it all, the dirty work. He'll never complain. He'll battle through whatever circumstance you give him, and he'll do it, and he'll get it done. But you don't see like the guarantee. Like when you watch FaZe, you think, okay, Simp is going to go for 35 in this hard point. Abizi's going to do the same thing. They're going to have double-digit controls and SNDs, and they're going to pop off like that. When you look at a team like NYSL, they're a collective unit. So I think that what I've seen, it's important for different guys to step up. In this past week, it was Mac. Couple of tight matches for NYSL, but what did he do? He's usually a role player, but he went mental this week. He had 240 bombs in the same series against Dallas. He helped win against the Florida Mutineers. Both games went the distance. Both of the series went all 5 maps, and I think he was the real difference maker for NYSL this week. The biggest thing, though, and what I'm talking at and what I'm getting towards in this First Blood take is it needs to be someone different every week, because Mac's not always going to drop 40. So this next week, maybe it's up to Asim. Maybe it's up to Hydra. Maybe Clayster pops off. I think we're at the stage of the year where that will become more prominent for every team. We've seen it happen a couple times with Toronto, and now we're seeing it with Optic as they get back in the mix. So at this point in the season, we've learned the game. We know the maps. We know the timings. Everyone's playing on the same level here, especially when we get back to LAN. No excuses. So it comes down to skill gap. It really comes down to who is actually good. Like, this is their game. Maybe they were good last year at MW. They're not as hot in Cold War. So there's that little skill gap. I know we have the best of the best competing against one another, but you see it when you're like, okay, I know this team is going to beat that team this week. That comes from skill gap, from the teams knowing the game better, being able to execute strategies and make those split-second decisions during a map to say, no, we're not going to run that. We're going to do this way. We're going to run this route, and this is the difference maker how we're going to win this series. So that's number one. Teamwork is kind of, backpacking off of what I just said in the fact that everybody has to collect their emotions, their egos, get together, and create a good environment for each other to play in. That's important. And on top of that, it comes to someone stepping up. You're not always going to have your best series every single time you turn on the PC and you get on the sticks. It's plain and simple. LeBron goes out and he throws duds every once in a while. It's going to be the same for the Call of Duty League. You're going to have a bad series. You're going to have a bad map. It is what it is. It's how your teammates pick you up, somebody else steps up, and how you respond the next time around. That's my observation and first blood take from what I saw this past week when I was sitting on my couch at work having the CDL matches on. I was kind of just scratching my chin. I was like, honestly, everyone's on the same level right now. Like, it's showtime. You're good. You're not good. Step up. Do it. That's my first blood take. Now it's time to hop in to the Barracks news and notes from around the league. And man, is it gonna be good. We had a lot of beef on the timeline yesterday, and you all have to know what I'm talking about at this point in time. If you didn't, then you've been without technology for 24 hours. You're doing that kind of thing, trying to get the mental back, rest, relax, all that good stuff. Or you're just living under a rock. It's one of those two things. But if you are a person who has one of those two situations going on, let me break you down on the situation. There is mega beef going on between the old Optic Dynasty team. I had to break out my OG shirt to talk about this today because, Crimsix and Formal are going at each other's necks. It is insane what we saw on the timeline yesterday, and it got heated. I was a little bit scared for everybody involved, and now everybody wants to fight. After they saw Logan versus Floyd, all that good stuff, all these Call of Duty pros are like, yo, let me at this guy, let's do it pay-per-view, give me a card, I'll knock you out, Scump, give me Zinni, fight night. This is real beef. This is authentic, the words that were exchanged online between Crimsix and Formal the other day. So as all of us know, the Optic Dynasty, in my opinion, I'm going to go on a rant about this. This take could take a while, okay? But just bear with me. Buckle up, strap in, get ready to go. My opinion, the Optic Dynasty could have been way better than it was. They could have won way more championships if they weren't a bunch of egocentric a-holes to each other. Plain and simple. They were some of the most talented and intelligent Call of Duty players of all time. They still are. But on this team, it really came down to big events and champs when they had letdowns in placements. They lost because they hated each other. They could not put their egos aside and work as a collective unit and be a good team, have chemistry, and enjoy one another's presence. They all had to be superstars. They all had to have the limelight. They all wanted to be the best, and they couldn't listen and take constructive criticism. Maybe it wasn't applied to each other correctly, but when you've seen it in the past, the documentaries, when you watched Vision back in the day, when they would have discussions, I know it's normal. Every once in a while, you're going to get at your teammates next. You're going to get in fights online when you're scrimming or in person after a match when you have the breakdown. You're going to say stuff, but these guys always took it personal, it seemed like. One of them would say, man, Damon would just be like, why didn't we run this route here? Why didn't you do that? And then the person who he was saying that about would get so defensive instead of thinking and looking back and saying, yeah, maybe I did make a poor play there. Maybe I made a mistake. It was, no, F you, bro. I did this. You could have done that better, and this wouldn't have happened. This whole situation is a problem because we're not doing team dinners. That's a good little inside joke. If you guys don't know about that one, yeah, that was a thing that happened. But the chemistry was a problem with this team. They all have come out and said it. I'm not spewing hot take here. They've all said it. They could not put their egos aside, and if they could have, I believe that they would have won more championships. In regular events, I know they won IW champs. Maybe they have a shot at winning Black Ops 3 champs. Maybe they play better in World War II. I don't really know what happens. But these guys, when you're the best of the best, you feel it. You feel the star power. You see it in Major League Baseball. You see it in the NBA. You see it in the NFL. When you know you're that good, a little bit of ego comes with it. But how can you control that and give your best and your best version of yourself to your team to make sure that that confidence doesn't become cockiness and a problem thinking you're better than your teammates? So that was a big problem with the Optic Dynasty back in the day. They all hated each other. At the end of it all, they couldn't bear to talk to each other. They didn't want to get online and scrim with each other. They just got so pissed off. They would hop off scrims. They'd just leave. And they couldn't take constructive criticism from one another. It just came a battle within each other. They would roll in cliques and switch that up every once in a while and just talk about each other, behind each other's backs, to each other's faces. And it was just a toxic environment overall. So long story short, that goes on, yada, yada, yada. Earlier this year, we saw the beef between Scump and Crimsix become squashed. They kind of put it behind them and got over it. And we've even seen stuff come out that like Scump was supposed to be Crim's best man in the wedding, and that all stopped because they began hating each other. Those two have said that they've squashed their beef. That's over with. But clearly, from what we saw yesterday, Crimsix and Formal, there's still a lot going on there. So let's pull it up right now. Let's show you guys the video and everything that got this to stem. Shout out to Serto for bringing this up. But let's just go ahead and play this video for you. I'll give it to you full screen. Wow, that's bad image quality. But we'll get it going. Turn the volume up. And I'll set the scene here. This is where all the beef started from. And I'll let you guys go ahead and watch this right now. Let me get my face out of the way here so you guys can see everything that goes on. And I'll leave this playing for you.
Nice!
All right, he'll answer anything. Fuck it.
Wait, you asked me though, right? Oh, no, never mind. You guys are good.
Who do you wish you dropped but never did? Crimsix. Back in Black Ops 3.
Who do you, what the fuck? You answered that so quick.
What do I do with the card?
So Formal right there, so quick to respond and make that answer. Like, you guys all heard it right there. You saw what happened, and that is what stemmed everything. Who do you wish you dropped, but you never did? And Formal straight up just says Crimsix in BO3. And it's like, whoa. And you can even see, pay attention here.
Nice!
Who do you wish you
Hitch's
dropped but never
reaction
did?
when Formal
Crimsix.
says this.
Back in Black Ops 3.
I'm gonna start like this. Right here, Maniac. You can see Maniac go, oh my God. And Hitch right here, the face that Hitch makes is literally, it's about to go down. Like, watch this play out.
What the fuck? You answered that so quick.
That face right there. If I can bring it back like a second, that face that Hitch makes, he's like, it's the face of, holy shit, did you just really say that? Like, they're doing this, it's all fun and games, it's for content, and then Formal throws a haymaker.
Quick.
And it was just like,
What do I do with the card?
and Hitch knew. Hitch goes, wow, did that just happen? And then from that point on, that's when everything exploded. We put wood, gasoline, tires, paper, everything we could find on the fire, lighter fluid, light the match, throw it down, and this got out of control. So let's break it down. Formal says that, and then Crimsix, we lost it. Here we go. Let me get back real quick. Then Crimsix tweets, plot twist, I get dropped during the year, join Envy in place of JCap. Crim sucks, still wins champs. Hold that, Jack Black, because Formal does kind of look like him. That's kind of funny. So Crimsix says that, and then it starts to get personal. That plot would be sweet, except the way it actually went is you went in broken with camo, game in your hands, and failed. And everyone knows the play that's being talked about there, BO3, and yeah, that's a personal shot towards Crimsix. Formal basically saying you cost us, and, you know, you kind of take that personally when your gameplay is getting critiqued. And then this is where I sort of, if this is actually truthful, this statement, I can see Crimsix's side. I'm not taking sides of anyone in the beef, but this situation here, I will take sides. Where Crimsix says, sounds like how you failed to split the MVP payment with the 3 teammates, no, I'd say brothers, that you just won a world championship with. Even though we all agreed on doing this if we won it, imagine scumming your brothers out of $6,000 to $7,000 because of pure selfishness and what I talked about with this Optic Dynasty earlier, ego. And I don't even give a not safe for kids here, this episode of the rotation, all right? I don't even give a flying fuck about the money. It's the thought of looking you in the face and realizing that this human being in front of me actually fucking did that you were capable of doing that. Then Formal says, LMAO, that's your response. You should just be happy you got a free ring for literally doing meh the whole tournament. So Formal definitely deflects on the situation at hand about the payment. And then this goes on and Crim says, thanks, Formal. I appreciate the free ring. Appreciate the free one from last year as well. Didn't think it could have happened unless you got me dropped. Then Formal says, you hold that online one dear to your heart, huh? Acting like you didn't get sunned by Sam at the previous one, and even worse, by Pat the one before that. So that's where the strand ended. Crimsix stopped tweeting after that, in this thread at least. I don't know if he went on his own and went to say something, but this situation was an absolute riot on the timeline yesterday, and I honestly enjoyed every single second of it. So I'm going to give you my personal advice and experience and my response to what is happening here. I'm going to take this seriously. We're going to do this together. Look me in the eyes right now, okay? I'm going to give you my honest truth and my opinion about what's going on here, okay? Here we go. We're ready to break this down even more from my perspective. We'll pull the tweets back up so you guys can see it. If this is actually true, if all this is actually true about Formal and the whole team agreeing to divvying up the MVP money, splitting it with everyone along with the championship money as that goes, and Formal just said, peace, deuces, we'll see you guys later, and didn't give him that, that is absolutely Bush League and screwed up to do that to, like Crimsix said, your brothers. These guys were brothers for the longest of times. No matter they hate each other at the end of it all, the run they had, the team they were brothers. Like Fast and Furious, that sort of bond is what these guys had. All the content, all the matches, all the winning, all the suffering, all the bouncing back that you've been through with one another. And then if Formal scums them all out of that, that's messed up, man. I get it. These guys at the time and still currently, they're all millionaires, okay? Put that beyond everything. They are all millionaires from their sponsorships, brand deals, contracts, earnings, all the supplemented income that these guys have. Trust me, they didn't need the extra $6,000 to $7,000 from Formal's MVP money that they would have split. They don't need that. None of them need that extra cash flow. But it's the principle that matters here, in my opinion, of you saying, yeah, boys, when we win champs this event, and one of us is going to win the MVP, we'll split that cash to one another. We all deserve it because we're a team. We work as a unit. So Formal wins MVP at IW Chance, and he doesn't hold up to his agreement and his end of the bargain. And I think that this is actually true because right here, he says, that's your response. You should be happy you got a free ring. He deflected that situation completely. Formal was out of line to do this. That's messed up. I don't care what you say. You're wrong if you say that's not messed up. If you actually verbally agreed to one another that you're going to divvy up that money, whoever wins the MVP as you win champs, and you don't do that, you keep, what would it be, like 20 grand? It was 4v4, 6, 12, 18, 24. Yeah. So it'd been like $25,000 for winning the MVP, and you just keep that bag to yourself. Like I said, the money doesn't matter, but the principle of the situation, Formal is out of line here, in my opinion. Other than that, this Twitter beef, that's incredible. I mean, the content it's producing, everyone is getting on their podcast, their YouTube channel. Jake Lucky's eating it up. Whatever it may be, it's great content. It's incredible storylines for the rest of the year, and everyone's trying to circle their calendar and see when the next time the Dallas Empire and Optic Chicago meet. I can't wait for it to happen. I hope. We got to be careful on LAN, to be honest, now that I think about it. When these players are all together on LAN, we got to be careful here. Formal and Crimsix may be going at it. If they're on main stage, there might not be fist bumps afterwards. There might not be hands shaken. And behind the scenes in the player VIP lounge, wherever it may be, like hands could possibly get thrown between these two guys because this is serious beef. Like I said, Scump and Crimsix squashed whatever they had, but there's clearly still stuff going on between these two with Formal and Crim. Well, let me know what you guys think on Twitter at zhack16 with all the beef and the drama that happened between these two the past couple of days, because I thought it was absolutely crazy, came out of nowhere, hit my timeline, and I just swallowed it in. You knew it was going to be spicy. You knew it was going to be crazy, and it's nuts. These guys going back and forth. Like I said, with their general beef of what's being said there, I don't take a side with anyone. I know you hate each other, whatever. I gave my take that, yeah, you were a bunch of egos on the Optic Dynasty and you could have been better. But away from that, the money deal with the MVP, it's messed up from Formal to do. Other than that, I don't take a side in the rest of the beef. I don't care. I just love to see it. Storylines, content, drama, boom. My eyes light up. I love it. Let's get on to the next topic. Let's stop talking about the beef and continue the rotation. Gosh, that's just crazy to think about, and it is hard to forget. But like I said, storylines for LAN, let's keep going. All right, guys, you are possibly going to be seeing an unorthodox cut in this episode of The Rotation, and that is because after I record the episode, we have a great show, killer topics, hot takes, and just stellar conversations. Right when I finish recording the episode, a topic we touched upon, breaking news happens, and now I have to re-give my opinion because crazy things happen. If you guys haven't seen it yet, the news and the topic that I'm referring to on this episode of The Rotation was when I said the LA Thieves, they're in trouble. Now I'll go back. I don't know if I'm going to cut it out completely, leave both parts in with what I'm doing now and what I had originally, but I'll kind of reassess and explain the situation to you guys. So my original take, I said that the LA Thieves are in trouble. They haven't been performing well, and the team just isn't clicking. We go back to talking about the original roster change. They were frying originally when they had TJ and those guys clicking back when they 3-1'd Optic in a monumental matchup. Following that, Hook becomes available. LA Thieves, they buy him out of his contract with the Dallas Empire, bring him onto their starting roster, and for TJ, that has to be hard. It has to be mentally taxing to go through that roster change when you feel like you're playing well, the team chemistry is high, you're winning matches, and you're winning big matches at that. But like I said before, a generational talent like Hook, you don't just not start him and have the opportunity to get him on your team and leave that go by. You don't do that. So with that being said, then the team gets Hook on the roster. They underperform a little bit, didn't win matches, and he stayed for a short little cup of coffee. Then they put him on the bench and bring TJ back. Back to being mentally taxing. Imagine getting dropped, brought back, and all this stuff, all the roster changes. It has to be hard. It's hard for the team to vibe with one another, and it's hard for the chemistry to be clicking, and I think that is what has affected their performance because TJ couldn't be confident. He doesn't know, am I going to stay here? Am I going to go? Is Hook just going to come back when you guys put him into the spot you want him to be? So that was really hard for the LA Thieves and what I think their struggles came from. So that was my take that I gave today. I didn't have confidence in their team headed into their home series, but now, out of nowhere, me and Murph, we finished talking about that. We finished recording the episode. Then I take him out to go to the bathroom, and boom, just a bomb drops on the timeline. If you guys didn't see it, obviously it's going to be what I'm talking about with the LA Thieves. The big news breaks that they are announcing a new starting lineup headed in to the Stage 4 Major and their home series, which is this upcoming week. I said that I wasn't confident in their abilities, and what do? They make a roster change to assist with that and make something happen. So you got the veteran squad back. What have I said this whole time about the LA Thieves? Build around Kenny. He's a boots-on-the-ground stud, one of the best in the game, one of the best to do it. You have to let him shine. Now look at this. You have the veteran prowess of Slasher. You bring Hook the Nuke back. TJ stays on the roster, and Kenny is just the man you got to build around, the MVP himself, in my opinion. This is intense. That, in my opinion, is a star-studded lineup. I'm excited and curious and interested to see everything that happens with this team and this roster. Can they stay level-headed? Can they put their egos aside? And can they perform as a unit? I think you're set up for success. Listen, JCap, in my opinion, one of the greatest Call of Duty minds of all time. One of the best players, one of the most intelligent players, and a guy who has so much passion. You're in good hands with him as your coach. Then you have the veteran leadership of Slasher on your team. The guy is fried, been in championship situations, and yeah, we're headed back to LAN. Watch out for him to be a star performer. So you have that set up, and then you have a generational talent like Hook. I've talked about him as LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, all those stars in the NBA. And when you look at the NFL, he's like these stud players. I look at Darren Waller, Christian McCaffrey, all these guys, Patrick Mahomes, you name it. That is what Hook is. He can perform for your team and change any game, get you a winning result, and be the best person on the map at any time. You combine those two with Kenny, an all-around superstar, boots on the ground stud. That's what he's known for. It's what he's done best. He's in a role now where he can absolutely slay out and make a difference on the map. Him and Hook, they're going to be dynamic together, but the sub-duo that you look at, it's TJ and Hook. I think it's great to have TJ back on the roster. He was performing so well before all the original roster changes happened. You pair him with Hook, I mean, it's peanut butter and jelly. It doesn't get better than that. It's coffee and a pastry. That SMG duo is going to be dangerous and make problems on the map for teams. Mark my words, if these guys can put some egos aside and focus on Call of Duty and buy into the process together and say, listen, we're here to win, let's perform, put our differences aside, let's do this. Watch out for the LA Thieves to get back into the top 4. Right now, in my opinion, it's FaZe, NYSL, Toronto, and the Mutineers. And Optic is on the border there. LA Thieves have fallen into the bottom half of the league. With this roster and LAN coming up, through Stage 4 into Stage 5 and Champs, watch out for the LA Thieves. So that's the breaking news that happened, went crazy all over the TL. I don't know if this is going to be a weird cut or not, but I gave my take on it. I think they're going to be great. Now we're going to hop back into the original recording of the episode. Thank you guys for putting up with it. Let's talk about those. Let's break them down. Let's get into predictions for this week. The LA Thieves home series, the third one of Stage 4 in the CDL. I'll pull it up on the screen for you guys and let's run through these matches. First and foremost, right off the bat, you look at this one, Toronto Ultra versus the LA Gorillas, it's going to be Toronto. Without hesitation, without any thought, it might be a spicy 3-0. The SND is the one thing that I think LA could win, but the way that Bance looked this past week in SND, that man is dangerous. So that one is the first 3-0, and then the next one on Thursday, it's Optic, Seattle, worst team in the league. We might see back-to-back 3-0s. I know every time that these two have played, it's felt kind of tight this year, and that's because everyone brings their A game against Optic. They've said it time and time again. They have a target on their back. Seattle are going to be gunning for it. It would be a huge confidence booster for them to even possibly take a map off Optic in this series. I don't know if it's going to happen. We could have some spicy 3-0s there. Then we get on to Friday. You see NYSL versus London. NYSL looking really good right now. Like everything is clicking. Their hard point is the best in the league, in my opinion. I think that they are by far the best hardpoint team. When I watch them, the stats on paper, they're disgusting. I think the Royal Ravens are starting to step up a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to take down NYSL. 3-1 is what I see that series, and then it's the first one for LA Thieves in their home series. I just talked about them having struggles, and I'm worried for what they're showing. I think it continues here. Minnesota are starting to come into their own. Major Maniac has finally found his stride back on this team. Standy is still one of the best rookies in the league, one of the best players in the league, and the support from Priesta and Attach, Minnesota are just a well-rounded team. They're a middle-of-the-pack team, but against LA Thieves, I think they're a great team. Next up, this one I think could be tight. Royal Ravens versus LAG. I think the Royal Ravens ultimately take it. It goes all 5, and LA continues with their struggles, and they lose both on the weekend. Then I think you have a close match between Atlanta and Minnesota. I think Minnesota plays inspired here. I don't think they win, but I think it could go all 5. That might shock some of you, but that's my prediction here. I think it goes the distance 3-2 in favor of the Atlanta FaZe. Next, we have a Game Fuel marquee matchup. Dallas really impressed in what they did against NYSL in the final series last week right here to make it go the distance against New York 3-2. But ultimately, they drop it. Vivid is starting to perform, but I just think Florida is too good with Havoc. I love how this team is composed. I love the strategies I'm seeing, and I like the confidence they're playing with. And in my opinion, the Florida Mutineers are the most selfless team in the Call of Duty League. None of them are there to play for stats. None of them are there to play as individuals. Neptune will take a backseat. Havoc knows he's the route man and the role player. And then Sky's an Awakening. Even when they're slaying, they'll give it up to one another. Let them have the big game. It doesn't matter who does it. And that's what I was talking about in my first blood take. That's why I think Florida have become more and more dangerous here in Stage 4 because they're selfless and they love each other as a team. I think that Florida take it 3-2, and then we move on to Sunday. The Paris Legion, they've been pushing the initiative. Scraps has looked really, really good. I like temp on the team. They're starting to pop off, come together, and get things done. When you look at the matches that these guys have played in previous rounds as we head over to breakingpoint.gg, like to put up one against Optic the way that they've been playing, it's been pretty good. So Temp, Scraps, and Zap, like that team, they're just getting used to Zap on the roster. But other than that, I think they could be sort of a sleeper to make things happen in the coming weeks. I think they beat Seattle. I think it goes the distance, and the struggles continue for Seattle, unfortunately. Next up, I don't know how, well, actually I do, because you have that storyline. But this, we could have 2 Game Fuel marquee matchups on Sunday alone, because arguably the top 2 teams in the league, yeah, you bet it's going 5. You know I love New York. It comes down to the S&Ds. I think the hard points go their way. The swing map, the control goes to the Toronto Ultra. That's just their map. It's their mode in the series. But when it comes down to it, the map 5 S&D, I think it'll go the way of NYSL. Lastly, I think this right here is a statement match for Optic. They bring their A game against the LA Thieves. They dominate. The Optic might possibly have 2 3-0s on the weekend, but I'm going to leave this one at a 3-1. Those are the predictions for the weekend. I know I blew through them really quick, but it's because we have a lot to talk about when it comes to other things, and I'm going to make sure these save. Those just saved. You guys saw it, okay? Predictions saved. Everything is slated and slotted there for the weekend. Let's get back to the full screen, and let's hop into some more topics. I'm excited. A lot of these are good matchups. The ones I highlight, I'm excited to watch Sunday, man. Optic, Thieves, Subliners, and Ultra. That is huge. Another one on Saturday, Mutineers versus Empire. FaZe Rocker. Like, we're due for good matchups this upcoming week. And it just means the season continues. It's getting better and better. I love the Call of Duty League. You guys know what I love most in the Call of Duty League? And with what's going on with everyone? It's got to be fantasy, of course. Gosh, Such a good weekend for Fantasy CDL. A lot of top performers who came out of the woodworks, a lot of sleepers to get to, and guys who just outright performed out of their minds and put up big numbers this week for Fantasy. So let's hop right into the first segment. We're talking some CDL Fantasy Standouts. Fantasy Standouts from the CDL. This first guy impressed me so much this past weekend in the Mutineers home series. I talked about him in my first blood take. He is the guy who took over for his team. It's NYSL. My first CDL fantasy standout from the past week is Mac Attack, baby. This guy was popping off. He stepped up in a time where NYSL needed him most. These guys played 2 5-map series against Florida and then against Dallas, where the rivalry has been present all year long. They were gritty matches between these two, and what did he do? He dropped a 1.27 against Dallas and a 1.08 versus Florida overall KD. Let me tell you something. This guy absolutely fried. His nickname is Mac Melts, and he got that name. He accrued that nickname for a damn reason. 214 kills between the two series, and let me tell you, he went nuts. 240 bombs in both the hard points against Dallas makes him a CDL fantasy standout. You want to know something even better? Mac may be a player that isn't rostered in your league. If that's the case, go and get him right now. He found his stride. He's on the best team in the league, one of the best teams in the Call of Duty League. I probably put FaZe at 1, NYSL at 2 right now. But he has that star power. He has the talent, the prowess to get it done. If he's not on a roster in your league or you're doing like a daily fantasy type thing, go pick up Mac right now because you can expect more performances like that as the year progresses. He was huge. Another guy who was huge comes from the shirt that I'm wearing right now. I know I wore this shirt on the podcast today to talk about the beef between Crim and Formal, but I got to talk about Scump, man. Fantasy standout indeed for the King. 117 points and the number 2 point getter of the week. The other standout, we'll talk about him in a second, but he's the number 1 guy. But Scump with 117 points and a 1.38 KD, he is collecting himself and finally starting to hit his stride. I know it's been the SMG duo that has been a little bit lackluster between Scump and Envoy, where they haven't necessarily put it together all season long, but they're getting to that point. Scump just absolutely beginning to pop off for Optic, and in that series against Paris, 87 and 63 on the series, positive 24. It was a tight hardpoint map one, 250 to 240. Guess who the difference maker was? It was Scumpy, 28-24, and his sub counterpart duo, 31 and 29 from Envoy. So those guys starting to get it done. And the SND, that's one of the biggest modes in fantasy because you get those huge points from kills and OBJ. When you drop double digits or close to that, that's when you're going to perform well. That's what Scump did. 6-2 was the map count there. He went 9 and 3. So he was the other fantasy standout from week 3 of stage 4, or week 2. Man, we've only made it 2 weeks so far. Oh my God. We're getting through it, guys. But Scump, another standout, and your number 1 CDL fantasy standout, the top point getter of the previous week. It's the man himself. It is Bance. He plays the OBJ incredibly well, which is something that I've seen in my analysis of all these matches. He had 99 seconds of hill time and a 13.64 OBJ and S&D. Went 14 and 7 there, guys. Okay? That's absolutely mental in S&D. Like I said, if you hit double-digit kills in a search and destroy with those points being multiplied so high, that's going to be your biggest point getter of the series. That's where Bance performed. And I think when you look at the matchups he has this weekend, we could see a couple of S&Ds from the guy. So Bance is your number 1 CDL fantasy standout of the week. He's probably rostered in your league, so you're probably not going to see anything big there. But him going against NYSL and LAG, I think he's another surefire start this week. If you have the opportunity, you have him on the roster, you got the money in daily fantasy, start Bance. Plain and simple. The guy's an absolute unit. He's a stud. You're putting him on your roster. I'm talking about starts a lot right now. Those are your 3 CDL fantasy standouts. Let's just go rapid fire right now. We're talking starts. We're talking sits. Let's get into it. Buy or sell headed into the LA Thieves home series. Buy or sell Call of Duty League Fantasy. A couple of guys have been in my mentions and shot out to me based on matchups and things of that nature for this week. And I think that these are a couple of good ones because these are guys who could be available out in the waiver wire or also maybe on your bench right now. You could go pick them up. You could bring them to your roster and get them started. The first one is Paul X, and I'm buying on this guy. Listen, he just had 72 points this past week, but he's one of the best rookies. I think him and Standy and Hydra are like the guys who are at the top. The biggest thing for me with Paul X, he's so composed, acts like a veteran, and he makes big plays. He's honestly a difference maker for the Royal Ravens when they win series, lose series, and when they're tight. Paul X is the guy. Listen, I know he has a tough matchup this week against the Subliners, but I believe he plays inspired there. And on top of that, there's a good matchup between the LA Gorillas, and I think that's one where them and the Royal Ravens, I predicted it to go the distance. That's going to do nothing but help Paul X get more points for your fantasy team. I'm buying on him. I'm starting Paul X this week. Despite the fact they play NYSL in the first match, I think he has a huge one against LAG. Paul X is the guy to start for your team. The next buy or sell, this is going to be the last one, just two of them for today. It's a guy where we've seen the team struggle and they continue to struggle, but when it comes to fantasy, he has the opportunity to put up stats, and you can't discredit that. It's like in fantasy football when you draft the superstar on a crappy team. You do it for a reason because they're going to have volume, they're going to see numbers, and they're going to perform probably. Even though the Denver Broncos are my team in the NFL, it's like drafting someone on their team. Like Noah Fant, he's going to get targeted a lot. He's going to be a good tight end if you can't get one of the premier guys like Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Kittle, those guys. If you don't get them, you get this guy. You get Octane, the superstar on a bad team. It has been tough for Seattle, but Optic, I believe it's an inspiring matchup for them. Like I mentioned, everybody plays Optic as hard as they can, as tight as they can. I know that's a tough one, but then they see Paris later on in the weekend, and I think that's a good matchup. Sam just had 53 points last week. I think he bounces back, and I believe that the matchup, maybe not against Optic, will be the big point one, but the second one where they go against Paris, I think it's another one that goes all 5 maps, and just like the same story with Paul X, I think there's an opportunity for Octane to perform big. The averages of those 2 matchups will be good for him, and he's one that I buy on as well. Let's get into the final fantasy segment of the week here on the rotation with Z-Hack. We're talking some CDL fantasy sleepers. CDL fantasy sleepers. Couple of guys who I think I spotlight who were in the dark from this past week and have kind of become in their roster and on their team a star over the past week. And they've been the shiner. They've been the one to look out for. My first sleeper, who I'm looking for on the waiver wire because he's fresh and new back into the league after being benched earlier, is Major Maniac. He took a while to get started through the first couple of weeks of Stage 4, but now he's hitting his stride and he is back. Last week, 95 points on the week. It's nothing to slouch at. It's nothing to scoff at. Major Maniac played nicely. I think he's beginning to complement his team very well, allow Standy to shine, Priest to do his thing in that flex role, and now Major Maniac knows his role. He's clicking with these guys, and he's one to perform. I think he stays consistent not only this week, but maybe the remainder of the season. Like I said, 95 points last week. Look for somewhere around there again for the young man. Major Maniac is big in the S&D. That's the swing map for fantasy. They have good matchups against the LA Thieves, and then they have a tough one against Atlanta FaZe, but I see that one going the distance. I think Major Maniac is a good start this week. He's a sleeper. Keep an eye out on him. If you can trade for him, or if you don't have him, he's on the waiver wire, anything like that, look out for Major Maniac. The next player I'm highlighting, it's an AR, and my eyes light up for anybody that Optic plays this week. They have Seattle. Like, you have to start someone against Seattle. In my opinion, I think it's time for Formal to shine. He has Seattle and the LA Thieves. Arguably 2 of the worst teams from their recent performances in the Call of Duty League right now, and I think Optic can absolutely stomp both these teams. 78 points last week. It's not bad. It's middle of the pack, but this week, look for him to pop off. I think Formal gets it done. He's a sleeper that he's the name, so there's probably going to be kids in your league who are like, ooh, Formal, I want him on my team, Optic, yada, yada, yada. But if he's available, look for him to put on your roster because I think he pops off. He's pissed off from all the drama this past week with Crimsix. I know they're not playing Dallas, but I think he still plays Inspire. Like I said, these matchups, they're huge. They're on a silver platter for Optic this week. All the guys on their team, honestly, if you have anyone on Optic, start them. Envoy, Dashy, Scump, Formal. Put them in your lineup. They will perform, but I think Formal will be a standout. I know Bruce has been slaying lately, so I think Formal steps up, stands out. He's been in bed. He's a sleeper to look for this week. Let me know what else you guys want to hear from me on Twitter, other sleepers that you have, other things you want to see. But those are my ones headed into the LA Thieves home series. We got one more segment to get into this week. You guys, you already know what it is. Scumpy, help me out here. Who's the best in the game? Best in the game from this past week. I can't get this guy's name off my tongue. I've talked about him like 5 times so far in this episode of The Rotation with Z-Hack. Who's the best in the game? It is Mac. Not only has he been putting up monumental stats, but he is selfless. The guy confides in his teammates. He knows how to play his role, and he knows how to get it done. When the time comes for him to be a superstar, he shines. He feels himself, and he's like, ooh, boys, this is going to be a big series for me. This is going to be a big map, and I am going to melt. He did it with 240 bombs against Dallas. He was a big part that they won in 5 against the Empire and NYSL, one of the best teams in the Call of Duty League right now. Mac, after this previous week, he was the star of it. Mac is the best in the game. Bookmark it. Look for him to continue to play well. Start him in fantasy. Watch him just for fun because he will continue to absolutely fry. Congratulations on Mac Melts for being this week's best in the game. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to episode number 18 of The Rotation with Z-Hack. Me and Murph, we always appreciate it. Even though it doesn't look like it, he is hype for the matches this week. Aren't you, buddy? I think he's dreaming right now. He's twitching over there. He's dreaming about the Call of Duty League. He's like, man, my fantasy team is so good this week. But thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in to episode 18 of The Rotation with Z-Hack. It's always an honor to get to sit down, talk to you guys. Give me your thoughts, what you think, who your best in the game is, who the guys are going to be in fantasy that will stand out this week. I love the conversations that I have with you, some of you guys. It's going to be incredible. A lot of good matchups for the LA Thieves home series. Enjoy it. Stay safe. Have a lot of fun. And we'll see you next time. Peace.